My name is Chris Elder. I'm a senior planner with Whatcom County Public Works. Been working for the county for about 8 years now. My primary roles revolve around watershed management planning, serve as the lead staff on the watershed staff team as it relates to the Wire One Watershed Management Board. Very excited to see a lot of familiar names on the meeting tonight. I've also been the staff support for the Climate Impact Advisory Committee for Whatcom County for the past 4 years now. Since inception back in 2017, when County Council adopted an ordinance creating the committee and tasking that committee with developing a climate action plan, or I should say updating the previous climate action plan that the county had. I do want to express my gratitude to the Nooksack tribe for pulling this whole project together. I've been lucky enough to participate with some of their staff, Oliver Graw and Treva Coe and others. And I guess I'm very thankful that we have some of that leadership at the tribal council level, as well as at the staff level, to try to help push and provide some clarity for how we can address some of these landscape scale resilience challenges, especially in the face of a changing climate. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of the climate action planning process that Whatcom County is pursuing, kind of in parallel to what the Nooksack tribe has done. We kind of started off our climate action planning process with kind of an update to our greenhouse gas emissions inventory. The last emissions inventory was completed for the county back in 2001. And now we did an update based on 2017 data. As you can see, Whatcom County has a little bit of a different greenhouse gas emissions balance than other counties in the state. A lot of that is due to some of that you'll see on the graph there, over 51% due to industrial point source. So a lot of the cherry point industries give us a little bit of an extra greenhouse gas emission load in the county. So that's why we are 3 times the statewide per capita. The Climate Impact Advisory Committee kind of followed what the state guidance was doing to establish some reduction targets of greenhouse gas emissions. So we are looking to reduce our emissions by 2030 of 45% and hoping to get a 95% reduction by 2050. And these are referring to kind of community-wide emissions. So our homes, our transportation, land uses, and so on. And I'm just trying to provide some background context to how we framed up our climate action planning process. And, one key way that it relates to a lot of what's been talked about tonight is kind of the role of forests and forested ecosystems to help us try to bring a little bit more of that balance back to our emissions inventory. So I think there's, some recognition or appreciation in certain circles that, getting to net zero emissions is an incredible lift. And I think a lot of us don't even quite know how we're going to do that. But a significant value or asset that we have locally in Whatcom County is kind of our forested landscape, because they have the ability to not only sequester ongoing carbon, but to provide that storage for the long term. And you can see, this is kind of a high level overview graph. We were able to actually do a kind of high scale, or I should say large scale, kind of low resolution assessment of the carbon stored in the forested landscape for the entirety of Whatcom County, including the federal lands, as well as kind of forested lands that fall within the county jurisdiction. So that dark green bar there demonstrates the amount of carbon stored on the federal landscape. And that light green bar kind of demonstrates the amount that's stored and can be sequestered annually on county lands. It is interesting just to look at that forest harvest bar, the next one over. So you can see there is some emission release kind of associated with forest practices. And that kind of light green bar on the underside of that demonstrates the carbon sequestered in forest products. So there's, kind of I think there's a happy medium in the middle there. What we kind of term as standard forest management practices, and then a lot of what Alex talked about with kind of community forest management practices that hopefully kind of aim for a middle shot there. And ultimately, this graphic kind of gives us a good just visual interpretation of the challenge that we have ahead of us. And I think how myself and a lot of the Climate Impact Advisory Committee members have tried to tackle, bringing a lot of this back into balance. So you can kind of see the heavy emissions releasing CO2 endeavors, whether that's our energy use, our buildings, transportation, to a certain degree, agriculture has some contribution to emissions. And then we have this natural solutions out there. It's trees, soils, even some cropping mechanisms. So ultimately where we're trying to get to is to bring those systems back into balance. Can we both reduce our emissions, whether that's industry, energy, transportation, while also increasing the amount that we store and sequester on our landscape? And that kind of land use fulcrum there highlights, a significant asset or ability that the county has to try to bring that back into balance. And just briefly, just to run you through how the current climate action plan is organized, we kind of have the overarching assessment of climate change. Harriet provided a great overview of what some of the likely climate impacts are in Whatcom County. The county itself had a consultant kind of also do an assessment for us of what were the observed climate trends, what were the projected impacts, relying a lot on our local UW climate impact group for some of the research they've been collecting, and also developed some guiding principles in there. We kind of broke it out by the built environment and the natural environment. And a lot of the Nooksack tribes climate adaptation plan focuses on that natural environment. So we did have the ability to work with Oliver and some of the other staff that have participated in development of this Nooksack Tribal Climate Action Plan to help inform some of the strategies and actions that we're recommending here in the county's Climate Action Plan as well. And I'll just kind of close this slide that, ultimately the Climate Impact Advisory Committee is recommending to County Council that they actually create an Office of Climate Action to try and help bolster and kind of provide a little more firepower behind some of these climate actions across the county. So I think my next slide actually covers this. So ultimately, the climate action plan is in draft stage currently. The committee is working to finalize this with the hope of actually presenting it to County Council next month for final adoption. So if everything goes well and County Council gives us the green light, we'll be able to kind of move with a little more purpose and hopefully be reaching out, directly to partners such as the Nooksack tribe and others in the county to try to see, what does it take to really make some more significant progress. And I say, with that, a lot of the presentations you saw this evening kind of reference Whatcom County as being a partner, and that is completely accurate. And I've been very appreciative of being involved and very supportive of a lot of the projects that we have. And I heard Chairman Klein even make reference to kind of the adjudication or the kind of the necessity and importance of water availability, water supply in stream for salmon and for the ecosystem at large. And it's been pretty refreshing for me as staff to kind of work under Executive Sadhu, who's been very supportive of my ability to kind of go out in the community to work with partners such as the Nooksack tribe and try to support and promote a lot of these projects that have a clear nexus with watershed resilience, as well as building some of this kind of long-term climate resilience that was identified in the Nooksack tribe's climate adaptation plan. And hopefully with what we're doing at the county, we'll similarly achieve some of those goals. So thank you very much for having me. And thanks to all of you for being here.